Attention bowlers, we are going to get started. Welcome back to Lakeside Lanes in Manchester, New Hampshire. This is Dave Yagy at Bryan, Hebert. I'm Steve Kelly on the call for the Atlantic Candlepin Singles Tour and 3-ball spare conglomerate. The match format is 5 strings with 14 points on offer. 2 points per string, 4 points for total pinfall, with ties splitting points. Good as always to have you along with us. This match was originally live streamed on Friday, January 31st, 2024, and is available for rewatching anytime upon the conclusion of this match. For those interested, I'd like to highlight a few things. First, this broadcast should have subtitles and live captioning enabled, so if you enjoy those features, please feel free to enable them. That's Dave Yagy down there. He's off to the left of the headpin for his first opening ball. Check out a left side, Candlepin corner. And folks, keep an eye on the unofficial scoreboard on your screen. It's here for the benefit of the broadcast, while the bowlers maintain the official book record separately. Scores may be subject to review or correction. I may occasionally pause to verify them if things seem out of sync. I appreciate your patience when that happens. So Mr. Dave Yagy will start out with an 8-box in the first frame of this first game in this 5-game series. If you're watching this on YouTube later on, there may be some times where I may include some notes in the description if I catch scoring errors in post-production, so do keep an eye out on those if they do pop up here and there. If you've never seen Candlepin bowling, I'd like to extend a warm welcome to you and I hope you enjoy what you are watching. That's Dave Yagy off to the right of the head pin now for the opening pitch of the second frame. This next ball will be a spare if you can take all the pins out. He's just off to the left, doing some Candlepin artwork down there. He's left with a center diamond down there on the lanes. And for the 10 box, he's going to punch 1 and leave 3. That means it is a 7 box for Mr. Dave Yagy, our away bowler here today at Lakeside Lanes. Dave Yagy has a season record of 28 and 14 with 3 matches played. That's a 2.0 win-loss ratio. Still early for him in the season, but not a bad ratio to start out with. Here's a headpin shot and a split for Dave Yagy. That is a banana split, the 7-10-4-6. There is some wood around 4, 6, 7, 10. Across the 4 and the 7, there's a piece of wood perpendicular. And Dave Yagy tries to get a pushover with the 10 pin, which has had a history on this lane at Lakeside Lanes of falling when it gets swept and tapped lightly. Does not fall this time. Matt Powers had enjoyed some great marks with that. So Dave Yagy, I believe, I'll wait for the call. It's always the bowler's call to determine what that's going to be. That's going to be marked as a 9 box for Mr. Dave Yagy. Dave Yagy has an away record of 10 and 4. With 1 match played. At home, he's 18 and 10 with 2 matches played. Dave Yagy's home house is Boutwell's in Concord, New Hampshire. And that is a thin hit, leaving a center bouquet of pins for Dave Yagy. The 1, the 5, the 3, the 6, and the 8. And he's just a little bit off the center, leaving the head pin, the object pin, for a 10 box with a 9 box guarantee. Dave seeks to fire for the 10 box. And it'll just miss off to the right. That'll be a 9 box and 33 after 4 for Mr. Dave Yagy. Here's Dave Yagy's stats. He has a season average of 94.25. When he's away, his average is 91.6. That's down from his home average of 96.9. He has a high single of 109 and a high series of 485. With 3 strikes, 20 spares, 29 tens, he has a perfect box percentage of 35% and 1,427 seasonal total pins. And Dave Yagy has the 6-pack down there. Check his ID. 6 pins left on the deck on the right half. 1, 3, 6, 10, 5, 9. And he just misses off to the left. Just a little bit off. Just adjusting the alignment of the camera here very carefully. And Yagy looks to clean up, and he'll get a nice 10 box on the 6-pack out the back door. That's 43 after 5 for Dave Yagy, and that will be the end of the first half and the first quarter of the first game. And we'll now be transitioning over to see Bryan Hebert for the first time tonight here on the Atlantic Candlepin Singles Tour. But first, we're just going down to retrieve a pin that rolled out of play. But here's Bryan Hebert's statistics. He's bowled a lot more matches than Dave Yagy today. He's bowled 10, or this season. He's bowled 10 matches. He has a season record of 36 and 104, a home record of 16 and 40, and a away record of 20 and 64. He's bowled 4 matches at home, and 6 matches went away. Bryan Hebert. Here he comes. To the right of the head pin on the 3 pin, and checks a few. And it's the last call for the 50-50 in case anyone's wondering. So Hebert, after a thin hit on the first one, on the second ball, he almost takes everything out. He leaves only the 7 pin after all said and done. So he's shooting for a 10 box on the 7 pin. I think. Oh. And it would appear that a ball jumped the ball return. That was what Bryan Hebert was doing there. Even I was wondering what was going on. And he just narrowly misses the 7, and he'll open with a 9 box. So Bryan Hebert has a season average of 92.25 with a home average of 91.1 and an away average of 93.4. High single 112, high series 494, 9 strikes, 62 spares, and 92 tens, 33% perfect box percentage. Seasonal total pins 46-24. He's currently number 5 in E North Division 3 and the number 11 seed in E North overall. That's Bryan Hebert. And he's not on the head pin, but he drops 8. A great mix of 8. 1 on the 3. Let's take a look what's down there. Hebert fires on the 1 and the 3. Hits the 3 in the wood on the 3 hard. Doesn't take anything else. Leaves the 1 pin on the deck. For a 9 or 10 box, Bryan Hebert will take a 9, missing the head pin. That's 2 9s in a row for 18 after 2 for Bryan Hebert. Dave Yagy 1 for 5 on the head pin with 1 split. Bryan Hebert, after 2 boxes, is still searching for that head pin. And let's see if he finds it. There's the head pin. Hebert's on it. Pin still mixing. 7, 8. Nope, just the 10 now. It was going to be the 7, 8, 10, but the pin's mixed late. And he's just left with the 10 pin now. Home Depot down there. 5 pieces of wood on the main part of the deck with the orange pin in the front. Hebert for the 10 pin for the spare. And I don't know how that didn't take the 10, but Hebert played the wood, and somehow the ball deflected away. So no spare for Hebert. On the retry, he's going to get a 10. A 10 box, and that's something where if you miss the second and get the third, we call that a Paul Grant special, in which it's a $1 donation to Candlepins per cancer per occurrence if you miss on the second and get the third, where it's the same exact leave. So Bryan Hebert now in the 4th frame. He has a headpin shot on the board, and that's nearly a strike. He seems to have found that headpin. He drops 9. No wood this time, just the 6 pin. Single pin spare shot. And here's the attempt. He starts on the right, beans it right out. That was a perfect shot for Bryan Hebert. 38 after 4. And a bonus for Bryan Hebert. He's currently 2 for 4 on the head pin, 50%. No splits. Bryan Hebert had a heck of a time last time he was here, getting a lot of splits. Decent amount of head pin shots, but a decent amount of splits. Not quite 1 for 1, but it was close enough. And Hebert's not on the head pin that time, but he'll fill with 6 for 44 after 4. Here comes Bryan Hebert on the 1, 6, 8, 10. Oh, and nearly goes. He collided with the right side of the head pin, the 1 pin. Hit the 6, took the 10. 8 stands. That will be a 9 for Bryan Hebert. And that will be the end of the half. Halfway through the first game. Bryan Hebert with 1 mark, 53 after 5 with 1 spare. Dave Yagy is still looking for a mark. He has 1 10 box with a 43 after 5. That's the story of the half. And we're going to say hello to Dave Yagy once again on the opposite lane this time. Starting now, opening pitch. And he's off to the left. Way off to the left, that is. Not much more to say about that. Bit of a jittery first ball, nonetheless. Second ball on the recovery. And he has an explosive shot on the front. Down the head pin, down the center. Blows up the center diamond, leaves what appears to be the 4-6-10, if my eyes don't deceive me. And Yagy's off to the right. He'll take a 7-box in the 6th for 50 in 6. Dave Yagy in the standings is currently 4th place in Class E North Division 1, and he's the number 8 seed in Class E North overall. He has the 14th highest Class E North average at 94.25, and the 6th Class E North average spare fill at 5.7, and he drops 5. Not on the head pin, it's the 4 horseman left side and the 5. Dave Yagy. A little bit too full on the head pin there, leaves the 4 and the 7. For a 10-box. 8-box guarantee. He'll take 1 and leave the other for a 9-box. 59 in 7 for Mr. Dave Yagy. 1 head pin shot for 7, 1 split. No marks to speak of just yet, but it's still early. Here comes Dave Yagy. He's off to the right, takes the 10 out, and only the 10. Nine pins left on the deck, 1 down, 9 up for a spare. On the head pin that time, and leaves the 4 and the 7 with a wiggly 4. No spare, but an 8-box, 9-box, or 10-box for Dave Yagy. Dave Yagy's taken 28 points in his past 5 matches, averaging 5.6 per match. Past 3 matches, that is. That's a 10-box for Dave Yagy. That's right. Dave Yagy's only bowled 3 matches, my mistake. I reserve that stat usually for bowlers who have bowled 5 matches or more, but since we are more than halfway through the season for all the rest of the bowlers, I actually found it uncommon that we still had a bowler that was still back in 3 matches played territory. Dave Yagy will punch a half Worcester on the 2 and the 8. That's a left side half Worcester for Dave Yagy, where you punch out the 2 and the 8 or the 3 and the 9. And a quarter Worcester is if you just take the 2 or just the 3. Yagy on the Worcester. Oh, and he sails right through the same void where the first ball went. Can't award the same 2 pins twice, so it's 2 down, 8 up. Dave Yagy. Third ball results in a 6 for 75 in 9. Dave Yagy in his past 3 matches has totaled 27 total pins. His longest streak of strings at or over 100 has been 2. He has 2 out of 3 matches with double-digit wins. And on the head pin, wow, that's an interesting 5 drop. You don't see this leave often. It's the 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. No wood. That was a head pin shot, if you can believe that. The second ball off target to the right. Excuse me, 4, 5, 7, 8, 9. My mistake. And he'll miss it twice, so it will be a 5-box for Yagy. And one moment. Sorry for the delay. So here we go. It's an 80 first game for Dave Yagy with 2 head pin shots and 1 split. And we're going to say hello to Bryan Hebert again, starting immediately. He's off to the right of the head pin with a 6-pack. Check his ID. And a 6-pack is a leave of 6 pins on the left or right half. 2 different ways to get it. He'll punch the 6 on the second ball. A little bit full. 1, 5, 3, 9, 10. On the 1, 3, and the 10, and the 9, and the 5. 5 falling last. That's a 10-box for Bryan Hebert. And the second ball, next ball of the half is way off target. Connects with the 10 and nothing else, unfortunately. He's off to the left of the head pin, leaves 3 on the deck, 1-5-3. For a 10 box with a 7 box guarantee for Bryan Hebert. And it will be a 7 for 70 and 7. Bryan Hebert has the 20th high Class C North average at 92.25. He's taken 24 points in his past 5 matches, averaging 4.8 per match. First ball is on the head pin. It was a good shot, 8 drop. The 4 and the 8. There's a piece of wood behind the 4 and the 8. See how Bryan Hebert takes this. And it'll take one and leave the other. He'll play the wood and then the back behind those 2 pins, which kicks forward one of the 2. So no mark, 9 or 10 box. Hebert will take a 10. That will tie Dave Yagy at 80. Except Bryan Hebert has 2 frames to go. So it will be, in all likelihood, the first game in favor of Bryan Hebert for 2 points. Dave Yagy finished with an 80, markless on the first game, in case you missed it. Bryan Hebert currently at 80 and 8 with 1 mark. Bryan Hebert in his past 5 matches has totaled 2274, averaging 454.8. And there may be a score correction. I will let you know as soon as it gets settled down there. It looks like down there he has 81, but I'll let you know what ends up happening. So Bryan Hebert drops 7, 139. And now it looks like he was score corrected down to 78. So I'll let you know what that was all about. Bryan Hebert for the spare, though, and the 9-pin wiggles. He was on the 139 and hit it a little full, and it looked like a good shot, but the 9-pin just refused to fall. And that'll be a 9 box for Bryan Hebert. I may need to adjust something in my score, so bear with me one moment. Okay, I just adjusted the scores to match what the bowlers have. I don't know if I got something wrong somewhere, but Bryan Hebert is at 87 and 9 after the score correction. On the head pin there, he drops 7. 4-5-2. 4-5-2 for Bryan Hebert. And that's a spare for Bryan Hebert right on the 4-5-2. Nice shot on the left side triangle for Bryan Hebert. So that puts him at 97 in the 10th. And that is confirmed. Bryan Hebert 4 for 10 on the head pin with 0 splits. Bonus ball. So he will take the first game. Fill ball is going to be a 5. Bryan Hebert's first game is a 102 with 2 marks, a spare 6 and a spare 5. And Dave Yagy will take an 80 in the first game. Bryan Hebert has 2 points in the first game so far. 4 headpin shots, 0 splits for Bryan Hebert, 2 headpin shots, and 1 split for Dave Yagy. And I am just double checking. There is some action in the bullpen in terms of score corrections. I'm just going to follow them. I'm just watching what happened. It looks like he did have a 10 box in the 6th. Is correct. Okay, it seems I might have been correct in the first place, so I'm just looking. Okay, corrected score is confirmed. Now we are back in sync, 104. So it seemed, I guess, either something down there wasn't input corrected and they just fixed it. And then luckily I could just look up and watch. So, okay, 104 to 80, I believe. I believe the dust has settled. That should be the final totals for the first game. Bryan Hebert in the lead by 24 in the game of the match, 104 to Dave Yagy's 80. All right. Let's go to the next game, shall we? Let's say hello to Dave Yagy. Yep, that's what I got. Yep. And I just got shown the paper copy just to make sure, and everything is good. All right, Dave Yagy on lane 24 at Lakeside Lanes in Manchester, New Hampshire. This is the Atlantic Candlepin Singles Tour. I'm Steve Kelly for 3 Ball Spare Conglomerate. and the Atlantic Candlepin Singles Tour. It appears that we do not have Wi-Fi tonight, so I apologize that we couldn't do this live, so I will be uploading this to 3-Ball Spare on YouTube and posting it everywhere, wherever we can. That's a spare for Dave Yagy, a single pin shot on the 5-pin after 9 drop. He's on the board with a mark, 10 after 1, and a bonus. In case you missed it, Bryan Hebert took the first game 104 to Dave Yagy's 80. Dave Yagy working on a spare. First ball on lane 24 on this Friday night, and he'll drop 8. That's the 2 and the 8 on the deck, and he'll fill with 8, 18 after 1. Yagy misses the target pins. Happens to everybody now and then. On the 2 and the 8, he takes the 8, leaves the 2. That will be a 9 box, so an 18 first box and a 9 second box puts him at 27 after 2 for Dave Yagy. So where are we tonight? We're at Lakeside Lanes in Manchester, New Hampshire. Established in 1959, about as old as Leda Lanes. 24 lanes, all wood approaches, all wood lanes, old school CompuScore manual computerized scoring. Plenty of food options in Manchester, obviously. There's places like the Goldenrod, there's the Dairy Field, there's the Puritan Backroom, of course. There's Ritza's Pizza and Mojo's right next to Lakeside Lanes. Plenty of awesome things to do in Manchester, New Hampshire, of course, the largest city in New Hampshire in terms of population. Dave Yagy doesn't get the spare. He's left with the 4 and the 8 for a 10-box attempt. Yet a headpin shot in this frame. And he'll take a 9. After 3, he's at 36. And Lakeside Lanes was voted WMUR Viewers' Choice Best Bowling Alley 4 times. So it's a 4-time champion in that regard. 2015, 17, 19, and 21. Bryan Hebert and I bowl in the Sunday Mixed League at Lakeside Lanes on Sunday nights. It's Dave Yagy off to the left of the headpin. Dave Yagy's longest winning streak, where he's gone 7 points, greater than 7 points per match, has been 2 so far. 3 strikes, 20 spares, and 29 tens in his past 3 matches. Second ball overcorrects to the right, takes out 2 more pins. And this will be for a 10-box. 3-box minimum. Oh, and unfortunately, it is going to be a 3-box for Dave Yagy. That's going to be 39 after 4. Score confirmed. Dave Yagy tonight 5 for 14 on the headpin with one split. Just one split. Split counts have been low tonight here at Lakeside Lanes. Bryan Hebert with none with his 4 for 10 on the headpin. Yagy, there's a 6 drop on the headpin. Leaves the bucket of 5. Excuse me, a 5 drop, not a 6 drop. Bucket of 5 on the right. Yagy on the bucket of 5. Collides with the wood, doesn't take anything. It was a miss off to the left. Dave Yagy for the 10-box attempt, he'll get a 7. And that will be the end of the half. And that will be 46 after 5 for Mr. Yagy. He has 1 mark, and he went almost perfect on the headpin. 4 for 5 on the headpin. No splits. So he's doing quite well in that regard this game. So it's now time for Bryan Hebert to answer. And he's off on the 2-4 pocket-ish. Leaves the 1-3-6-10 for a spare attempt. 1-3-6-10, and I heard a nope, and he was way off to the right. Leaves the 1-3-6-10 unharmed. He'll be shooting for a 10-box now. 1-3-6-10. We'll take one out for a 7. 7 after 1 for Bryan Hebert. 46 after 5 for Dave Yagy, in case you missed it. 7 after 1 for Bryan Hebert. Bryan Hebert's longest streak of matches at or over 100 has been 2 this season. He has 1 out of 10 matches with double-digit wins. And Hebert fires This was almost the same as the first ball previously, but he's left with the 1, the 6, the 8, and the 10 this time, not on the head pin. 1, 6, 8, 10 with a piece of wood to the right of the head pin. The head pin is the orange pin. And Hebert will take 2, leave 2. The orange pin at Lakeside Lanes is part of a cool pool series where if you play the orange pin pool at the front desk before the start of a league, assuming you're bowling in a league, it will be a raffle type system where if you get a strike or a spare where the orange pin is the head pin, you get entered into a raffle and you can win some money. And you might win that pool more often than you might think. So the orange pin pool, Lakeside Lanes. And Bryan Hebert is not on the head pin but drops 7, 1, 3, 9. With some wood between the 3 and the 9. And Hebert fires on it. Oh, and he caps a piece of wood and the wood gets rearranged, but nothing else falls. So for a 10 box. We'll play the wood again, not on target, but it will be a 9. After 3 boxes, Bryan Hebert is at 25. Bryan Hebert's 4 for 13 on the head pin this match. 31% to Yagy's 40% in that regard. And Hebert's off to the right on the 3, 6 pocket. 1, 2, 4, 10 are left. That's the leave. 1, 2, 4, 10. For a spare, 1, 2 pocket will take this. And he's just a little bit off. Leaves the 1, 2, 10. For a 7 box or greater, it's going to be a 9. 34 after 4 for Bryan Hebert. Those scores are confirmed. With 1 to go, 2 spares for Bryan Hebert, 1 spare for Dave Yagy. And Hebert will take 6 out on the first ball, leaves the 1, 2, 8, 9. 1, 2, 8, 9 for a spare for Bryan Hebert. He's just off to the right. No mark. For the 10 box, he'll take a 7. It's 41 to 46 in favor of Dave Yagy at the end of the half of the second game. And this has been kind of flipped on its head compared to the previous game. Bryan Hebert at 41 after 5 with no marks, no head pin shots. Dave Yagy 4 for 5 on the head pin, 46 after 5 with 1 mark. And that is the story of the half of the second game so far here in the Atlantic Candlepin Singles Tour. Here comes Dave Yagy. Takes out the 6 pin and then some. Not quite a lemon drop. 2 down, 8 up. Dave Yagy is just a little bit off, takes a few more out. He's left with the 1, the 2, the 4, the 7, the 8, and the 10 on the deck for a 10 box opportunity. And Mr. Yagy will take a 6 for 52 after 6. Dave Yagy has a strong season start, winning 28 out of 42 points across 3 matches. That's a 66.7% success rate. In terms of the points grab, that's a 7 drop for Dave Yagy on the head pin. That's the 3, 6, 10 down there on lane 23. And he'll miss the spare opportunity. There's 2 pins to go for a 10 box. And he'll take an 8, 60 after 7 for Dave Yagy. 7 for 17 on the head pin so far. 5 for 7 on the head pin this game. The ability to find the head pin on the first ball is something bowlers should definitely aspire to achieve more often, as that generally leads to more success. And there's a head pin shot right there, and there's a strike, the first strike of the match for any of our bowlers for Dave Yagy. So Dave Yagy with a strike. Dave Yagy now working on a strike. Second ball on the head pin there. Bit of a more forceful ball, I've noticed. 7 down so far. 2, 4, 7 is what he's shooting at. Here we go to fill the spare. Or fill the strike, that is. And he connects with the wood in the object pin, but oddly enough, it just kind of bounces around. Not much happens. That's an 8 fill for 78 and 8 for Dave Yagy. No mark. 4-7 for a 10 box. 8 box guarantee. And it will be an 8, 86 and 9 for Mr. Yagy. 1 strike, 1 spare, Dave Yagy. 47% head pin completion percentage with only 1 split. 16 total fill quantity bonus pins, averaging 8 per mark for Dave Yagy. And he fires off to the left. Gets a spinny piece of debris that doesn't take much else. 3 down, 7 up. Center diamond and the right back Candlepin corner for a spare to close out the second game. And Dave Yagy will take the 2 and nothing else, leaving a right side 6-pack. For the 10 box, it's going to be a nice out for a 9. And that will be, at the end of the second, for Dave Yagy, a 95. With 2 marks, a strike and a spare. Well-filled strike and spare, I will say. And he did quite well for the head pin as well. 7 for 10. 95 for Dave Yagy. A nice recovery from that 80 opening game. So it's now Bryan Hebert's turn on lane 23. Game on. And he's on the head pin, and he splits it up with a right side diamond and the 7 pin. Let's see what happens here. 5, 6, 3, 9, 7. Bryan Hebert just a little bit to the right of the diamond. Takes 1 out. He wanted to connect with the 3-6 pocket, but he was just a little bit too much to the right. And Hebert will take a 6 box, 47 in the 6 for Bryan Hebert. There's a 6 for Bryan Hebert. $47 and 6 is confirmed. Bryan Hebert's to the right of the head pin, drops 6, 1, 2, 4, 7. Down there on the deck. 1, 2, 4, 7. That's the left side 4 horsemen. There's no wood either. Clean shot at it. And he's on the 4-7, leaves the 1 and the 2. No mark for Bryan Hebert. It's an 8 box or greater. And he's just off. That'll be an 8 for Hebert. That's 55 in 7. Compare that to 60 in 7 for Dave Yagy at the same point in the game. Dave Yagy threw a 95. Bryan Hebert on the head pin. A thick-ish hit resulted in a split, the 4-6-10. With a piece of wood possibly that could help if you hit it the right way. Maybe red line it, maybe a little south of the red line, something like that. But it starts with hitting it. Bryan Hebert misses it to the right. Airballs it. 4-6-10. Once again. And it'll collide with the piece of wood, but hit it a little bit too hard. And all 3 will be left down there for a 7 for 62 in 8 for Bryan Hebert. Dave Yagy had 78 in 8. Bryan Hebert needs a mark. He's off to the right. 4 horsemen left in the 9. And Hebert will take the 9, leaving the 1, 2, 4, 7. And it will be a 6 for 68 and 9 for Bryan Hebert. No strikes, 2 spares for Bryan Hebert. Dave Yagy has 1 of each. 1 strike, 1 spare. That's the story so far in terms of the marks. And Bryan Hebert will punch 2 on the left side for a half Worcester. Half Worcester left side. Did you punch the 2 and the 8 or the 3 and the 9? Hebert on the Worcester. Oh, second ball sails right where the first one went, more or less. So this is going to be the second game in favor of Dave Yagy at this point. And he'll leave it with a 5 box. That will be 73, game 2 for Bryan Hebert. So both bowlers have points on the board. 177 two-game total for Bryan Hebert and 175 two-game total for Dave Yagy. The difference in the total is 2 in favor of Bryan Hebert, 177 to Dave Yagy's 175. Dave Yagy took the second game by 22-95 to Bryan Hebert's 73 and reclaimed a fair amount of that total deficit from the first game. So we have a match, a competitive match here on the Atlantic Candlepin Singles Tour, folks. That's great, as always, to have you along. And our bowlers will be just still writing down the final stats and everything. So in the meantime, in case you need to know how to read the scoreboard, there are the head pin indicators and split indicators to the left and the right of the score towers. And X is 10. The triangle represents spares, and the square represents strikes. And Dave Yagy drops 7 on the head pin, the 1, 2, 10. That's what he's shooting at. Oops. 1, 2, 10 is what he's shooting at. And he'll leave the 1 and the 2. He took the 10. Yagy on the 1 and the 2, and he'll be an 8 box. 8 after 1 for Dave Yagy. Dave Yagy has a far superior win-loss ratio compared to Bryan Hebert's, but it's still early in the season for Dave Yagy. He has a slightly higher season average, but is less spare-heavy compared to Bryan Hebert. Here comes Dave Yagy. On the head pin this time, 6 drop. It's the 4, the 5, the 10, and the 2. And he'll punch the 2 hard, leaving the 4, the 5, and the 10. Yagy has to pick a stick, but he plays the wood, and it will be a 7 for 15 after 2 for Mr. Dave Yagy. With 1 headpin shot this game, 1 split, and overall he has 10 headpin shots for 22 with 2 splits. Let's see what Dave Yagy can do here in the 3rd frame, opening pitch. He's off to the left, but he gets a decent mix. Better mix than I thought it was going to be. 4 drop. Center diamond and the 6 and the 8. For the spare, down the center. Oh, and the sleeper pin is the only one that doesn't go. About the best anyone could have done with that, honestly. For the 10 box now. Dave Yagy, wow, a very animated piece of wood, but spins, bounces, but doesn't take anything. That'll be a 9 box for Dave Yagy for 24 after 3. Score confirmed. Dave Yagy's the left of the head pin, and he'll punch out what we like to call a lemon drop. It's first ball punch out on the 4 of the 6 pin. That's a $1 donation to Candlepins for Cancer per occurrence. And we'll talk about Candlepins for Cancer a little more in depth in a little bit. And for the 2nd ball spare attempt, he leaves the center diamond. Dave Yagy does. Or left side diamond, that is. 2, 4, 5, 8. For the 10 box, he almost breaks it, but he'll settle for a 9 with a great out. 33 after 4 for Dave Yagy. That's Kevin Davis down there running back just after he came back from behind the lanes to do some maintenance. Kevin Davis is among the fantastic staff at Lakeside Lanes. Kevin Davis, really fantastic bowler in his own right from the old days, and he still comes out to bowl every now and then. Particularly the Easter Classic at Leda Lanes. I know I definitely saw him there a couple of years ago. And Dave Yagy with a split, a gnarly split on the 1-2 pocket. Left with a bucket of 5 on the right and the 7. And he plays the bucket of 5 the right way to play it. He leaves the 5 and the 9, no mark. Yagy 2 for 5 on the head pin with 2 splits this game. Piece of wood is out of play down there, so Bryan Hebert will go down there, retrieve it. Again, to continue our lecture on how to read the scoreboard in case you're lost. So here's an example of the scoreboard with all possible marks and all possible combinations. There are double strikes in which if you get a second strike, you get the original strike filled as 20, and then you get 1 extra ball to fill it unless you get a triple strike, and then it's just a 30. The triangle represents a spare, the X is 10, the square is a strike. The bottom of the screen in the full screen view will show the totals for the games as well as the match. So that's how to read the scoreboard. And now back to the action. That'll be a 9 box for Dave Yagy. A rough half, and some of it wasn't his fault either. So he's markless after 5 at the exact halfway point. 42 after 5 for Dave Yagy. 2 headpin shots and 2 splits. And he's currently 11 for 25 on the headpin with 3 splits. That's the story of the half for Dave Yagy. Here comes Bryan Hebert. On just the 10 pin. Something was off on that first ball release. He was just off to the right for the spare. On the head pin there's a spare for Bryan Hebert. Right on it. Like I said, whatever he didn't get in that first ball was definitely fixed in the second. Let's take a look at that again. Watch this go. The explosion of pins on the 1-2 pocket. Now he just has to be able to try to match that in the first ball. And then he'll really be in business. So Bryan Hebert on the board early on with a spare. 10 and a bonus after 1. And Bryan Hebert on the 3 pin to fill a 4. 14 after 1 for Bryan Hebert. See if he can spare this up. Hebert. Oh, he wanted to go for the right side of the head pin. They just missed it to the right. Just a little bit off. And it's going to be, unfortunately, a 4 box. So that early lead turns into a bit of a mediocre second box total, although that spare in the 4 fill did kind of help pad out the second one. So it's 18 after 2 for Bryan Hebert. And that's a 3 drop on the right side. And sometimes we call that a right side Candlepin corner. And Hebert on the second ball towards the center, a little closer to the center, but not quite center enough. He leaves the 1, the 2, the 4, and the 7. And Hebert waiting for the wood. It doesn't look like it's going to take the head pin. It'll be a 9 box and 27 after 3 for Bryan Hebert. Bryan Hebert's longest winning streak has been 1 this season. He's been having a bit of a rough season so far. He has a head pin average of 17.4 for 50 this season. He'll drop 6, leaving the 4 horsemen left side. Perhaps a retry attempt, or retry chance here. And he'll take the 4 and leave the 1, the 2, and the 7. Unfortunately, no mark. Bryan Hebert has a split average of about 8.8 per match based on the data we have. In his past, oh, and that's a nice 10 box, though, for Bryan Hebert on the remnants of the 4 horsemen. That should be 37 after 4. And that is confirmed. Bryan Hebert has had 2 strikes, 31 spares, and 48 tens in his past 5 matches. Bryan Hebert, again, he's really struggled. He's only been winning 36 out of 140 points, 25.7% across 10 matches. He'll take a right side half Worcester on the 3 and the 9. And now for the spare on the half Worcester. Oh, and he'll complete the trip to Worcester. There's a story behind that. We call that a A complete round trip to Worcester that you've won there if you can take the left side half Worcester and the center. And will he take everything out? Oh, the 5-pin is the last one there. It'll be a hard-fought 9-box for Bryan Hebert on the full trip to Worcester that he won. No fees or anything. That's 46 after 5 for Bryan Hebert and 42 after 5 for Dave Yagy. A difference of 4 in the game and a difference of 6 in the total. It's a close game and a close match. So far, points are tied here on the tour. Atlantic Candlepin Singles Tour, this Class E North match on this Friday night. And it's now Dave Yagy with a lemon drop on the 6-pin. Both bowlers just struggling a bit on their first ball in general. Second ball, much better. And a late falling pin, it ends up being everything but the 3 down there on the deck. 9-box or 10-box for Dave Yagy. And he'll clean up for a 10. 52 and 6 for Dave Yagy. Dave Yagy's perfect box percentage against Bryan Hebert is 35 to Hebert's 33. It means both bowlers have roughly similar consistency in filling frames. Here's Dave Yagy. Oh my goodness, that's a quarter Worcester. This is just a lecture and a clinic of the Worcester shots tonight. Bryan Hebert with a full Worcester not too long ago. And yeah, the quarter Worcester is just the 2 or the 3. And here, Dave Yagy took out just the 2. Pins are kind of a little bit sleepy down there. Yagy punches out some more on the right side. At least the 1, the 4, the 5, the 7, the 8, and the 10 for a 10-box. Rough goings down there for Dave Yagy. It'll be a 5 after all said and done. 57 in 7. That's the story. Dave Yagy, 1 strike, 1 spare. Bryan Hebert, no strikes, 3 spares. Bryan Hebert, 6 headpin shots to Dave Yagy's 11. Dave Yagy has 1 more split than Bryan Hebert, 3-2, respectively. Here comes Dave Yagy. In 23. And that's a strike for Dave Yagy. That's what we call a hammer. Watch that again. Watch that strike by Dave Yagy right there. It was on the 1-2 pocket, and the 6-pin fell last. That was a great strike by Dave Yagy. He's got 2 to his name tonight. That was his 12th headpin shot for 28 with 3 splits. Dave Yagy working on a strike. On the 1-2 pocket, nearly a double. Oh, that was tasty looking. He left the 10 on the deck. What a great shot. It was great to watch. It's exciting when there's a ball that just collides with the pocket and just blows everything up and just rips it. So this will be for a spare. And oh, he just misses the 10 by just a hair. It'll be a 9 fill for Dave Yagy for 76 and 8. This will be for a 10-box now and a potential miss the second, get the third. Oh my goodness. The ball stays on the deck but doesn't go in the gutter, and it doesn't hit the pin either. That's a 9-box for Dave Yagy. 85 and 9. 13 for 29, the head pin with 3 splits for Dave Yagy, totaling 25 in total fills, averaging 8.3 per mark. Here's Dave Yagy on lane 23. To the left of the head pin, got another explosion of pins. When they go, they go. He drops 7, 1, 3, 6. Wasn't on the head pin. Still quite a great first ball. Sometimes you don't have to hit the head pin to get a decent mix. It certainly helps. Will it be a spare? Oh my goodness, the 6-pin really, really wanted to go. It's still thinking about going, but it will not. Dave Yagy, who got robbed of a spare here, is looking to take a 10-box for a potential 95 game and a 94 guarantee. 9 or 10? It'll be 10. That's 95. In the third for Dave Yagy. And after 3 games, he's had a 3-game total of 270, 80, 95, and 95 for Dave Yagy. 3-game total of 270. He went 4 for 10 on the head pin this game with 2 splits. Time to see what Bryan Hebert can do in response. Bryan Hebert. To the right of the head pin. That's another half Worcester, just picking up right where we left off. It's been a lot of Worcesters tonight. He punches the 3 and the 9. Hebert on the Worcester conversion. Takes the left half. 10 pin falls last. The head pin stays. So it'll be for a 10 box for Dave Yagy. I mean, not Dave Yagy, Bryan Hebert, excuse me. It'll be a nice 10 box for Bryan Hebert, 56 and 6. Compare that to 52 and 6 for Dave Yagy. Bryan Hebert, 0 strikes, 3 spares. Dave Yagy, 2 strikes, 1 spare. Oh, and Bryan Hebert, he made that gesture there. The ball just tailed off to the right. Something wrong with the release there. Got the front camera to analyze that later on. And he's on the 1-3 pocket on the second ball. The 2, the 5, and the 7. Would have been a great first ball if that had been the first ball. So Hebert will, well, it'll be a 7. So I guess it wouldn't have been a spare either. 63 after 7 for Bryan Hebert. Compare that to 57 and 7 for Dave Yagy. But Dave Yagy has a strike and a 9 fill coming up. To give you an idea of the pace for Bryan Hebert here. It's important he gets a mark in these last 3. And he's on the 3 pin and takes a few, leaves others. 1, 2, 4, 7, 8, 6, 10. For a mark. Hebert takes a few more, leaves 4 on the deck. 6 down, 4 up. 1, 6, 8, 10 for a 10 box. He'll take 2, leave 2, 8 box, 71 and 8 for Bryan Hebert. The scores are confirmed. The 95 is also confirmed for Dave Yagy. I always like to just double check. Every once in a while, scores get desynced, and it's just something, scoring in Candlepin bowling, there's a lot of numbers involved, so. It's an 8 drop for Bryan Hebert. And a split. The 8 and the 9. He wasn't on the head pin. It's the rare situation where it wasn't a head pin shot, but it was a split. We only award head pin shots if the ball collides with the head pin, but we do award splits if the head pin falls by some other method. Hebert on the 8 and the 9. This will be a rough split. And he'll take 1 stick and not the other. Bounces off the left sidewall. The 9 pin unharmed. He hit the 8. For a 9 or a 10 box for Bryan Hebert, he'll be a 9 for 80 and 9. So he needs a mark and a 5 fill at least to tie, and anything greater to take this 3rd game. And this will be the pivot point for Bryan Hebert. Opening ball, nice offer. Will be a strike. Is it going to be precisely what he needs? That 2 pin. That 2 pin, oh my goodness, it was like a 9.5 drop, I swear, but he's in good positioning for a mark. Great positioning for a mark on that 2 pin. Still can't believe that wasn't a strike. And he misses it, but he hits a piece of wood which kicks it. That will be a spare for Bryan Hebert. If he can get a 5 fill, he'll tie. Anything greater, he will steal this 3rd game from Dave Yagy. 90 and 10 for Bryan Hebert with the bonus ball. Here's the bonus ball. This will decide the game. And he's on the head pin, and there's the 5th. There he goes. That's 6. That's a secured 2 points for Bryan Hebert. Bryan Hebert gets it done. Can't believe that. He just stole that right in the last second, like a Super Bowl victory in the 3rd. Bryan Hebert, 96 to Dave Yagy's 95. Right, coming in clutch right in the end. My goodness, 2 marks. Just the right spare and the right fill just at the right time. By all rights, really could have been a strike had the 2 pin decided to cooperate any better, but that is a 3-game total of 273 for Bryan Hebert. Up in the total by 3 to Dave Yagy's 3-game total of 270. Bryan Hebert takes a 3rd game by 1. The total is a gap of 3. This is a tight match. And based on the stats that I took before the start of this match, I was kind of expecting it to be close like this, but it definitely exceeded quite a few of my expectations in terms of just how close this match is and how competitive this match really is. So let's not delay any further. Let's move on to the 4th game here and see what happens. We got Dave Yagy down there, out for blood, out for revenge. Dave Yagy has a stronger away performance, 10 points per match versus Hebert's 3.33, and Dave Yagy will punch the 10 on his first ball of the 4th game. Dave Yagy performs slightly better at home, 96.9 average than in away, which is 91.6. He still wins more points. He's still won more points in his away matches, though, so far this season. Second ball's not a mark, 1, 2, 4, 9. And Dave Yagy will take 2, leave 2. That's an 8-box opener for Dave Yagy. Dave Yagy has averaged 5.6 points per match versus Bryan Hebert's 4.8. That's a steady performance. Dave has been slightly more strike-heavy recently, 0.6 per match versus Bryan Hebert's 0.4. He's on the headpin there. He'll drop a few. That's about all I can say about that. 1, 2, 4, 7, 9, 10. And on the retry, not on the retry, on the spare attempt, he leaves the 1, 2, 9, 10. One, 2, 9, 10 for Dave Yagy. No mark, 6-box guarantee. And it will be a 6 for Dave Yagy, 14 after 2. Dave Yagy is generally more efficient with wins right now. Again, he's only bowled 3 matches, but he's converted lower scores into match victories, and it's just all really about the wins when it comes down to it. It's a 5 drop for Dave Yagy on the 1, 3, 6, 8, 10. Second ball nearly takes them all, but he's left with a 1 pin on the deck. For the 10 box, Mr. Yagy. It'll be a 9, 23 after 3 for Dave Yagy. That score is confirmed. And here's how to read the little mini map in the top left-hand corner in case you haven't, in case you're not sure what's going on. It's the bowler initials at the top, followed by the points in the current moment, followed by the match total and the game total. And will it be another strike for Dave Yagy? That's a strike for Dave Yagy, a slow mover, but doesn't matter if it moves slow as long as it goes. Let's see that again, shall we? There we go. And he's on the 1-2 pocket, and that spinning piece of wood took out everything, including the 3, which just took a brief moment just to figure it out. Dave Yagy is working on a strike. And he's just off to the right of the headpin, but you get a second ball for the fill, so he's taken out 2 so far. Let's see if the next ball will net him a better fill. 33 and a bonus in the 4th for Yagy. And we'll see what this next ball finishes off the 4th frame as on a strike. 3 strikes for Dave Yagy tonight. 14 for 35 on the headpin. Will be a spare. Oh my goodness. Great fill. 9 fill. Leaves the 10 pin. He got very close. And he'll take a 9. In the 5th, that'll be 51 after 5 for Dave Yagy. A great half with 1 strike and a 9 fill to really launch him past 50 in the half. So that's the benchmark for Bryan Hebert to get by the end of 5 boxes in the 4th game here on the Atlantic Candlepin Singles Tour. And here comes Bryan Hebert. To the right of the headpin, takes a right side at Candlepin corner. For the spare, he's off to the left. Not quite the action he was looking for. It's the center diamond for a 10 box and a 6 box guarantee. And oh, whoa, that was something. And Bryan Hebert says okay, and I also say okay. That was a 7 box. In fact, let's see that again. You want to see someone get ripped off? Here's someone getting ripped off. Bryan Hebert ran the headpin. The ball sails right through the pins, and the headpin jumped right over everything else. Wild. And Bryan Hebert's off to the right of the headpin, takes 2. For some reason, my brain froze there when I was trying to determine if it was 2 or 3 pins that fell. And next ball is off to the right. Air ball. For for the 10 box for Bryan Hebert. Oh my goodness, it's going to be a 2 box. Rough second frame for Bryan Hebert. And Hebert to the left of the head pin this time. A bit of an overcorrection, but gets more than 2. Center diamond and the 6 and the 10. 4 down, 6 up. For the spare. Here we go. And on the 1-3 pocket, it was the right idea, and he's left with the 2 and the 5. For a 10 box now for Bryan Hebert. And that'll be one more out. That'll be a 9 box for Bryan Hebert, 18 after 3. Bryan Hebert, despite the record disparity, Bryan Hebert has a higher single string high and a better 5-string high, suggesting potential for breakout games compared to Dave Yagy. Hebert converts more spares per match, 6.2 versus 4.0, but Dave Yagy may be relying more on clean frames and 10s. Some analysis by Microsoft Copilot, based on the stats I fed it. And Hebert's off to the right of the head pin. And Hebert for the spare, and that's a nice cleanup spare on just a real crazy pile of pins down there for Bryan Hebert. Let's see what watch this. It was the 6-pack and the 9. And he just takes them all out on the 1-2 pocket. Everything goes. That was Bryan Hebert's spare. All right, working on the spare. This has to be big for Bryan Hebert. On the 1-3 pocket, nice head pin shot and an 8 fill. That might have gotten him back in this match, or this game. 36 in the 4th. A drop makeable spare, 2-4. The pitch, a little bit too much to the left. Won't be a mark, but it's a guaranteed 8 box for 40-something. 44 potentially, and it will be a 44 with that 8 box. 44 in 5 for Bryan Hebert and 51 in 5 for Mr. Dave Yagy. 1 mark apiece, 1 strike for Dave Yagy with a 9 fill and 1 spare and an 8 fill for Bryan Hebert. 44 after 5 for Bryan Hebert, 51 after 5 for Dave Yagy, and I believe those scores are confirmed. Welcoming back Dave Yagy to the approaches of Lakeside Lanes on lane 23 of this 24-lane establishment here in Manchester, New Hampshire. Dave Yagy, opening ball. He'll punch for a lemon drop on the 6-pin. Dave Yagy on the lemon drop conversion, and he's off to the left, takes a few more out. So yes, the lemon drop is a little kind of this like started as a bit of an inside joke that Paul Grant started, but it's a thing where if bowlers get it and agree to it, it's a $1 donation to Candlepins for Cancer per occurrence. And if you're wondering what Candlepins for Cancer is, well, it's kind of in the name. It's it's a charity organization in which it's for assistance for bowlers in the Candlepin bowling community who are in need of cancer treatments, and cancer is no bueno, and it's a fantastic charity organization run by Al Johnson and Paul Grant with plenty of bowling tournaments as well. So you can not only donate, but you can also roll off for tournaments and such. And I believe we just wrapped up the latest round of roll-offs at Riverwalk Lanes in Amesbury, Massachusetts, and then the top 5 ladder tournament series will be taped very soon. I want to say next weekish, like the first week of February or so. And Dave Yagy on a 6 drop with a rough split. He takes 1 and leaves the right side 3, the 3-6-10. He's shooting for a 10 box, 7 box guarantee for Dave Yagy in the 7th. And he'll clean that up for a 10. Great janitorial work for Dave Yagy, 69 in 7. Those scores are confirmed. He's currently a 339 in the total. So Dave Yagy shines at home at Boutlaws Bowling Center in Concord, New Hampshire, his home house, with a higher average, but fascinatingly secures more points per match when away. He might thrive under the pressure of away games, turning challenges into victories. And speaking of challenges, my goodness, that first ball doesn't connect with anything. Dave Yagy has an exceptional peak, scoring 123 and 116 back-to-back strings so he can perform exceptionally in a row. Second ball is off to the right for Dave Yagy. After a low score such as a 75 in match 10 in one of his strings, he was able to bounce back kind of swiftly. That's Dave Yagy. He performs well in critical frames, which could be why he has a higher win ratio despite similar averages to Bryan Hebert, and that will be a rough 8-box for Dave Yagy. Not to contradict everything I just said, but that was quite of a heck of a box and a battle for an 8-box for Dave Yagy. He's currently at 77 and 8. Two out of his 3 matches have been double-digit wins, so when he's on it, he's on it. And Dave Yagy, wow, that was an animated first ball, but didn't get much to say for it. Sailed way off to the right, took the 10-pin. Dave Yagy, this one's a funny one. I did not write this. This is a co-pilot generated one. Dave Yagy is more like a seasoned sailor, catching favorable winds, aka momentum, and charting a steady course, even if his vessel isn't the fastest. That was cheesy. I don't know why. That was definitely something. So Dave Yagy, no mark. He's left with a 139. And will be a 10. He'll fight hard for it, but the 9-pin won't go. That's an 86 in 9 for Dave Yagy. If he can get a mark, he might reach 100. We'll see. So even though Dave Yagy wins matches, boosting his average scores will solidify his standings. Again, he has a lot of catch-up to do generally in terms of matches compared to a lot of other bowlers who are well past like round 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 at this point. Dave Yagy will take 3 off the right side. And for the recovery, he'll punch one more out, leaving the left side 6-pack, 4 down, 6 up. It's going to be a potential 96 game if he can take the 6-pack out, but a 90 otherwise. Or maybe something in between. We'll see. Dave Yagy, third ball, final ball of the 4th game. Oh my goodness, he'll take a 6, 92 in 10 for Dave Yagy. That will be the 4th game. And a 4-game total of 362 for Dave Yagy. With 1 mark this game, that 92, he's bowled an 80, a 95, another 95, and a 92 for a 4-game total of 362. And now it's time for Bryan Hebert to respond. Here comes Bryan Hebert. And a nice first ball. Drops 9. Nice mix. So down there, he's got the 2-pin and a piece of wood that wood may or may not help. In Candlepin bowling, this is never a guarantee. The way that is slightly angled, that's something a lot of bowlers get worried about, myself included. I know Bryan Hebert is analyzing that hard right now. I was hearing some chatter about that. Let's see what happens. But he plays the wood the right way, and that will be a spare for Bryan Hebert. That's 54 and a bonus in 6. Did a great job there. So 2 marks for Bryan Hebert, 54 and 6 in a bonus. 2 headpin shots this game. 9 headpin shots overall for 36 with 3 splits for Bryan Hebert on a spare. Oh, and he'll lemon drop it and 1 fill it, unfortunately. That'll be 55 and 6 for Bryan Hebert. Ball tailed off to the right. And the second ball, oh wow, right on it. That's one of those situations where definitely wishes the second ball was the first. He's left with the 2 and the 4 on the deck. 8, 9, or 10. He'll take an 8. That's 63 and 7 for Bryan Hebert. Only down by 6 to Dave Yagy. 69 and 7. Dave Yagy had no marks from here on out. So it's going to be a slugfest. If Bryan Hebert went for all 10s for the rest of this game, he'll have the 4th game. Here comes Bryan Hebert to the right of the headpin, but mixing down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 7. It's the 1, 2, 3, 4, 7 down there. A huge inverted check mark. Bryan Hebert. And, oh, he's on the headpin and way just a little bit too full on the headpin. Headpin definitely gone, but now he's left with the 2, 3, 4, 7. And Hebert. Oh, nice shot by Bryan Hebert. He'll get a great 10 box out of that. 73 and 8. And I want to look at that again because that was just a fun shot to watch. Look at that. It was the 2 that collided into 3 to make that a nice 10 box for Bryan Hebert. Bryan Hebert, oh, he punches on the head pin. He's finding the head pin right at the wrong times. That's a spread eagle. It's the traditional 4-pin academic spread eagle where you punch out the center, leaving the left and the right wings. And Hebert will take the 3 and nothing else. Rough goings. So he needs pins. He really just needs to keep pace with the pinning. And it's not for lack of trying. He'll take a nice 7 box out of that mess that he was dealt. See, Candlepin bowling is something where you can just be dealt kind of a crappy hand, and that was definitely one of those situations. Bryan Hebert 10 for 39 on the head pin with 4 splits. Dave Yagy 15 for 40 on the head pin with 4 splits, and Bryan Hebert will punch to the right. A lot of punch outs right now for Bryan Hebert. That's the 3 and the 9, another half Worcester. Bryan Hebert on the second ball, and oof. That is going to be the 4th game in favor of Dave Yagy. It's going to be a close differential, but since Bryan Hebert couldn't maintain that momentum, he's going to take an 88. That is confirmed for a 4-game total of 361 for Bryan Hebert, down by 1 to Dave Yagy's 362. This total, my goodness, this total is being passed around, and it's very, very close. Dave Yagy, again, only took the 4th game by 4 pins, and Dave Yagy has the grand total pinfall by 1. Uno. 362 to 361. Dave Yagy has Uno. We're not playing Uno, but, 3 strikes, 1 spare for Dave Yagy, and 0 strikes, 6 spares for Bryan Hebert. The head pin percentage is largely the difference here. 38% for Dave Yagy to Bryan Hebert's 25. The split percentage is even, 4 for both, 10%. And Dave Yagy is only at 34 for the total fills, and Bryan Hebert is just right behind him, 30. So the average is 8.5 per mark for Dave Yagy versus 5 for Bryan Hebert. So again, all these numbers very, very close. So 4 marks for Dave Yagy, 6 marks for Bryan Hebert. That's the story of the 4th game. 362 4-game total for Dave Yagy with an 80, a 95, a 95, and a 92. Bryan Hebert 104, 73, 96, and 88. For a 4-game total of 361. And that will be the 4th game. That's the end of the 4th. Let's move on to the 5th, shall we? I know Dave Yagy wants to. Dave Yagy will start out down there. Lane 24. Starting out strong with an 8 drop and a split. It's the 2 and the 10 on the deck for Dave Yagy. Sails right through the center. Leaves the 2 and the 10. Dave Yagy came into this match 28 and 14. Bryan Hebert came in 36 and 104. And Dave Yagy will miss both times for an 8 box in the first. So, folks, if you want to check out some other stuff, check out the multiverse of Candlepin Bowling on YouTube, TikTok, and Facebook. Candlepin Bowling Network, Candlepin Corner, and 3 Ball Spare are on YouTube. There's also the Atlantic Candlepin Singles Tour page on YouTube, as well as Facebook. And then there's at Candlepin Bowling on TikTok. Here's Dave Yagy on the head pin. Drops 9, leaves the 7 on the deck. It's just the 7, and wood is settling. Inching its way to the left, which is what we want, but it's angled in the correct way. Play that wood, and you should take the 7, but you can also play it directly. Really either or. Dave Yagy will choose the wood, and the wood will play nice. That's 18 after 2 for Dave Yagy. $18 after 2 and a bonus, I might add. Dave Yagy perfect on the head pin this game so far. He's on the head pin quite a bit, and that's the first time he's not on the head pin, but he'll fill with 5. 1, 3, 8, 9, 10 down there for Dave Yagy. Every pin counts at this point because this match has been tight in terms of the grand total pinfall all the way up to this point. And Dave Yagy will just miss his object off to the left. 1, 3, 9, 10 for a 10 box, 6 box guarantee for Dave Yagy. 1, 3, 9, 10. With a piece of wood between the 3 and the 9. Dave Yagy fires, and the 9 is the one that stays. That will be a 9 box for 32 and 3 for Dave Yagy. So again, there's also Candlepin chat on Facebook for additional stuff such as discussion and tournaments and all that kinds of stuff. There's Alley chat on Facebook and for all kinds of stuff. And that's Dave Yagy, not on the head pin. It's the 1, 3, and the 9. Again, but yes, Candlepin chat's on Facebook. If you want to know when tournaments are, or you want to just kind of get a pulse on the Candlepin world, Facebook, the Candlepin chat group on Facebook is really the best place to check that out. There's alleychat.net and youtube.com/@alleychat if you want like Friday night Pro League recaps and all kinds of stuff like that, as well as Alley Chat Classics for older matches. That's a 9 box for Dave Yagy, 41 after 4. There's also some YouTube channels that feature the older TV matches from the old days, such as Wolfman12395 on YouTube. There's also the Candlepin Bowling channel on YouTube. There's also podcasts. If you like podcasts, there's the Ripping the Rack podcast. And will that be another strike by Dave Yagy? Oh, my goodness. Dave Yagy doing awesome on strikes tonight. Get a replay of that. Watch that strike by Dave Yagy on the 1-3 pocket. Everything goes. That was the story. Dave Yagy is just the strike machine tonight. So that's 51 after 5. 2 marks for Dave Yagy. 51 open. So he'll have some other... He'll be 51 in whatever the bonus ends up being. But let's say hello to Bryan Hebert. Meanwhile, in response, and he drops 7. Not on the head pin. Slightly to the right of the head pin. 1-2-7 is what he's shooting at. 1-2-7. Bryan Hebert flies with the 1, and it dances around the 2 and doesn't take anything else. 2 and the 7 are left on the deck. Bryan Hebert shooting in an 8, 9, or 10 box opportunity, and it will be an 8. 8 after 1 for Bryan Hebert so far. Hope you're enjoying this match. I'm Steve Kelly on the call for the Atlantic Candlepin Singles Tour. We're just winding down the first half of the final game here, this 5-game series. Bryan Hebert's off to the right of the head pin once again. 1-2-4-7-9 is what he's aiming at. 1-2-4-7-9. And he nearly takes it. He runs down the left side 4 horsemen, but the 9 remains. The 9 remains with wood settling down there. So he's shooting for a 10 box. He'll play the wood. That will be a 10, 18 after 2 for Bryan Hebert. So yes, if you like podcasts, there's also Ripping the Rack and The Approach. And there's also some folks that individually contribute on YouTube and TikTok, such as Tony Levesque and Charlie Collins. So check those out as well. Charlie Collins in particular is very big on the Pro League scene. So Hebert will drop 8, leaving the 1 and the 3 on the deck. For a spare. Here's a spare shot for Bryan Hebert. And oh, goodness, he was just off just a little bit. Leaves that 1 and 3 on the table. For the 10 box for Bryan Hebert. He'll continue with the 8 box. Missing it again. Twice in a row. 26 after 3 for Bryan Hebert. And again, in case you missed it, Dave Yagy threw a 51.5, and that 51 is to be continued with that strike in the 5th. Dave Yagy has 4 strikes and 2 spares. Hebert has 0 strikes and 6 spares. Let's see what happens. Hebert right down the center. Again, we're starting to see a bit more of the punch-outs come back for Bryan Hebert. It was a center spread eagle minus the 7. Oh, and Hebert nearly takes the remains of the eagle for a spare, but the 2-pin was the only one that didn't fall. It looked really, really cantankerous to go. But that's a 9 box for Bryan Hebert, 35 and 4. 1 head pin shot, 1 split. With 1 box to go. But This might be, unless Bryan Hebert can really pull out the stops here, there might be a bit of a divergence here in terms of the differential, which has been really, really narrow up to this point. But let's see what happens here. Bryan Hebert will fire. On the head pin. Pin's mixing. It looks like it's going to be a split 6 drop. It's a 7, 9, 10, 6. Lots of wood down there. I'd either cap the wood on the right or I'd redline that center wood. It's something like that where you got to pick one of the two options. See what Bryan Hebert decides. He'll redline it all when the ball bounces off the right side wall, and he's left with the 6, the 9, and the 10 on the deck. No mark for Bryan Hebert. It'll be for a 10 box, and it looks like it's going to be a 9. I think that stayed on. It's going to be 44, I believe. Yes, it will be 44 for Bryan Hebert. 2 for 5 on the head pin with 2 splits this half. 3 for 5 on the head pin with 1 split for Dave Yagy. 44 half for Bryan Hebert. 51 and a bonus for Dave Yagy. 51 on a strike in the 5th. So Dave Yagy will be returning to the approaches on a mark, hot on the mark. So we're going to see how that pans out here. As Dave Yagy returns to the approaches here at Lakeside Lanes in Manchester, New Hampshire, off the Massabesic traffic circle on a snowy Friday evening at Lakeside Lanes. Here's Dave Yagy on a strike. Nice 7 drop. He was to the right of the head pin, but got a decent mix. The 1, the 2, and the 10 so far down there on the decks. Wiggly 2, 1, 2, 10. 1, 2 pocket should push the wood over to the 10. Yagy. Oh, and he plays the right side of the head pin. We'll get a spare on a strike for Dave Yagy. Let's get a, oops. Sorry, I had to replay, but pressed the button too late. But yes, 71 and a bonus after 6 for Dave Yagy. He's working on a spare now. Oh, the left of the head pin fills with 6. That's now 77 and 6. 1, 3, 6, 8 for Dave Yagy. Oh, and he was just off a little bit. Leaves the head pin on the deck, so no additional mark. No 3 in a row for Dave Yagy. But it will be a potential 87 and 7. 9 or 10 box for Dave Yagy on the head pin to complete the 7th frame. Oh, and he'll just tap it slightly. But it'll be a 9 box for 86 and 7 for Dave Yagy. Dave Yagy 3 marks this game, 2 spares, 1 strike. Dave Yagy is 18 for 47 on the head pin with 5 splits. Currently 38% head pin completion percentage. Compare that to Bryan Hebert, who is 12 for 45 with 6 splits. Dave Yagy is to the right of the head pin, drops 8. 2, 4. It's going to be a shot that you just have to just shoot the pins. No wood, no nothing. Just focus on the 2 and the 4. Hopefully don't shoot too full. And just like that, that's a mark for Dave Yagy. 96 and 8. Take a look at this once again on the 2 and the 4. Fires right on it, and like I said, just fire right on it, hopefully not too full, and that was precisely what happened. Dave Yagy, 96 and 8. Plus a ball, he has 4 marks this game. This might be enough for Dave Yagy to take the grand total pinfall, as well as the 5th game, and this could be potentially what results in him taking 10 points versus Bryan Hebert's 4. We'll see, though. That's a split for Dave Yagy and a 6 drop and a 6 fill. It's the 3, 6, 4, 10. That's what he's got to work with. Let's watch. Oh, he thought about it a little too much, I think. He shot at the 10, leaves the 3, 6, 4. Dave Yagy. And he'll punch one, leaving the goalpost to the 4 and the 6. That's an 8 box for a 110 score in the 9th for Dave Yagy. So before we kind of finish things out, we're slowly getting towards the home stretch here. I want to thank a couple folks, including our ACST committee members, including our league commissioner, Danny Finn, Class C treasurer, Maurice Perry, our statistician, Micah Imperato, the staff at Lakeside Lanes in Manchester, New Hampshire, Steve Abodeely for some of the B-roll and photography you've seen tonight. Check him out at stabodeely.com. That's STABODEELY.com. And of course, viewers like you, thank you for watching every time you tune into the Atlantic Candlepin Single Store and these live streams and supporting the Candlepin bowling sport as a whole, as small as we may be. We're still always grateful you watch. And that's Dave Yagy punching the 3 and the 9, 3 down, 7 up. Still working on a pile of pins down there, just trying to get a good out. He's got 110 in the 9th. He'll get a 120 if he can take everything out here. Currently a 113. Final ball. Oh, and it'll be a great out of 8 for a game of 118 in the 5th. And that will be a 5-game total of 480 for Dave Yagy in the 5th. 480. 4 marks in the 5th game, 118. 5 for 10 on the head pin with 2 splits in the 5th for Dave Yagy. 480 is the total. And now it's time for Bryan Hebert. And he's on the head pin in response and drops 8 with a split, the 3 and the 10. That's what he's shooting at. And the wood is still settling. Always have to wait for the wood to settle. But, oh man, that wood is probably going to roll. Well, it's around, but you still got to play the 3. And Hebert's just the left of the 3. So it's the 3 and the 10 for Bryan Hebert once again. And he'll punch him out for a 10 box. That's another miss the second, get the third situation where you miss on the second ball, get the third. $1 donation to Candlepins per Cancer per occurrence. And again, Candlepins per Cancer, check them out. Great charity organization. Candlepins #4 cancer.com. If you want to donate or sign up for qualifying roll-offs, there'll be a ladder series coming up here in just about a week or so. Bryan Hebert on the second ball after a 1 drop. He leaves the goalpost, the 4 and the 6. One of those situations where sometimes you're just too full on the splash. So Hebert's got to pick a stick. And, well, he'll get a field goal. We can award 3, but how about 8 for 62 and 7 for Bryan Hebert? Again, I want to thank you for watching. I hope this was a great, pleasant viewing experience for you. If you enjoyed what you saw and want to see more, I invite you to strike, comment, and subscribe to the Multiverse of Candlepin Bowling, including all the channels we talked about earlier, like the Atlantic Candlepin Single Store page on Facebook and YouTube, the Candlepin Chat group on Facebook, Candlepin Bowling Network on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram, Candlepin Corner on YouTube, at Candlepin Bowling on TikTok. There's, of course, my channel, 3 Ball Spare. Check me out on youtube.com and on Facebook. And Bryan Hebert. What a fantastic out for a 10 box there. 72 and 8. Check out Outrun the Bear on Facebook and Instagram. Alley Chat on YouTube. There's the Candlepin Bowling channel on YouTube. The Approach Podcast. Tony Levesque on YouTube. Charlie Collins on TikTok. Check them all out. And of course, also, if you want to go bowling yourself, go to candlepin.org and click Go Bowling to find your nearest center. Any center nearby you will always appreciate your business. And Bryan Hebert for the spare on the 189, and he's just a little bit too, I don't want to say too full, but he got 2 of the 3 pins. It's a hard shot. Hebert will take 9 for 81 and 9. Hebert markless in this 5th, while Yagy had 4 marks. It's looking, yes, it will be the 5th game. Even with a triple strike, Hebert can't come back to Yagy's 118 with an 81 in the 9th for Bryan Hebert. And Hebert off to the right of the head pin. Once again, it's a lemon drop plus a friend. To close out for the mark attempt, he'll punch 1 more out. So this is going to be a potential 91 game ceiling for Bryan Hebert. For the final ball and to conclude the match, it'll be a 7 box for Bryan Hebert. And that is going to be it. 88-118 is the 5th game and the final game. 5-game total of 480 for Dave Yagy. He is victorious by 31 pins to Bryan Hebert's 449 5-game total. And Dave Yagy will take the 5th game by 30. That was basically the grand total pinfall because it was only a difference of 1 otherwise coming into this. 118 to 88, Dave Yagy making the marks where it counted, almost as predicted by our statistics and predictions. So that was basically it. So we'll compute the final stats and the final everything. Dave Yagy will take 10 points today to Bryan Hebert's 4. It's a 5-game total of 480 for Dave Yagy, 5-game total of 449 for Bryan Hebert. And Dave Yagy, who took the grand total of pinfall, wrested it back in the 5th game with that terrible 118 5th game. It was almost like a mirror image in terms of ramping things up. Dave Yagy started out slow, but then got better and better and better. Bryan Hebert started out hot, but then kind of cooled off a little bit, with some variance in between, of course. 8 marks for Dave Yagy, 6 marks for Bryan Hebert. Dave Yagy really shining ahead with the strikes. 4 strikes tonight. Bryan Hebert 0. 6 spares, though, for Bryan Hebert, more than Dave Yagy's 4. Perfect box percentage is 30 for Hebert and 26 for Dave Yagy. And Dave Yagy averaged 96. Hebert averaged 90. Headpin percentage was 20 for 50 for Dave Yagy, 40%. 13 for 50 for Bryan Hebert with a 26%. 6 splits for Yagy, 7 for Hebert, relatively even. Fill totals, Dave Yagy really pulled ahead with totaling 61 in bonus pins, averaging 7.6 per mark. And right there, that difference, 61 to Bryan Hebert's 30, and the fill totals in particular, that's more or less the difference in the match total. So when you think about that, it's all about filling the marks. Dave Yagy averaged 7.6 per mark. Bryan Hebert averaged 5 per mark. And that means Dave Yagy will move to 38 and 18. Bryan Hebert will move to 40 and 14. So that will just about do it for us here at the Atlantic Candlepin Singles Tour. I hope you enjoyed this match. And if you want to go to candlepin.org and click Go Bowling to find your nearest center, I know any center you go to will always greatly appreciate it. Check out 3 Ball Spare on YouTube, Twitch, and Facebook. Search 3 Ball Spare on Facebook and just go to twitch.tv/3ballspare for everything else, and at 3 Ball Spare on YouTube. And again, check out candlepins4cancer.com. That's Al Johnson and Paul Grant in the photo there to sign up for qualifying roles or to donate like we talked about earlier. Anyways, I've been Steve Kelly, and for Dave Yagy at Bryan Hebert, it's been great broadcasting this to you, and I hope you have a great one, everybody. Good night.